Young and the Restless, Jack's bold risk and Daniel's new love story. Young and the Restless see some exciting new spoilers for next week because Daniel Romalotti, Michael Graziadei, is a smitten kitten. He's falling in love, and also Jack Abbott's Peter Bergman, about to make a very big and risky move for the family. We've got the latest YandR spoilers for the week of August 11th. We'll get into what is happening with Daniel, why Jack is risking so much, and what move Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil, is going to make next week. Young and the Restless spoilers, Jack Abbott's bold business strategy, and Kane Ashby's ambitions. Let's start with the Abbotts. We know, of course, that Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, offered Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, the chance to work with him and Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, at Arabesque, which is the company he plans to fold all the other companies he conquers under. But Kane said the caveat was that Billy had to agree that YandR would be on their list of targets. Now, I think Kane was actually testing Billy. I do think Kane really wants to get his hands on YandR, but that's not a big secret that he was telling Billy. What Kane was doing was seeing if he could trust Billy with that secret or any secret. The answer seems to be no. Young and the Restless spoilers, Billy talks to Jack. Because at the end of this week we're in now, we've got Billy talking with Jack at Society. And guess what? Billy tells Jack all about Kane's plans to take over all the companies in Genoa City, including YandR. Billy knows that Kane's plan is a bold and risky move. But Billy also says, don't underestimate Kane because he accomplished a lot under the alias Aristotle Dumas. So you can't say, this can't be done. Maybe Kane can do it. Then Jack is wondering if Kane really thought that Billy would sell Jack out and go behind his back and undercut him. In a moment of honesty, Billy upsets his big brother Jack and he goes, yeah, I considered it. We all know Billy will do almost anything to get his hands back on Chancellor. But for now at least, it looks like he won't throw Jack and YandR under the bus. Not yet. And if he does, at least Billy warned Jack, so he can shore up their defenses at YandR. In the end, Billy promises to have Jack's back. And Jack tells Billy that they need to work together to take down Kane. So Jack wants Billy to take the job at Arabesque and sabotage Kane from the inside. Also, Jack tells Billy he will remain the primary investor in AbbottCom. He won't sell his shares to Kane. He won't let him buy him out. And that way they've got backups. Young and the Restless spoilers, Billy caught by Phyllis. Then that's when Phyllis popped up and said it looked like Billy is betraying Kane to Jack. And yeah, Phyllis is right about that, but Billy of course lies and says that's not what he was doing, talking to Jack. Phyllis tells Billy that Kane sent her to tell him Billy's out of the partnership. So he doesn't believe it. He thinks she's lying. We'll see if Phyllis is. While Billy is talking to Jack, Kane is over meeting with Victor Newman, Eric Braden, who says he wants to work with Kane to target the Abbotts. We know Jack was willing to work with Kane to take down Victor to protect Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron, and Kyle Abbott Michael Mealer. So, it's definitely getting messy with people deciding whether they want to work for or against Kane, or possibly both, and try to secretly betray him. The new guy in town who's, a former guy from town is definitely drawing lots of attention. Daniel Romalotti's romantic developments and Tessa Porter's marital struggles on Young and the Restless. So, in next week's Young and the Restless spoilers, Jack tells Diane Jenkins, Susan Walters, while they're at the Abbott mansion that he's got some concerns about the info he got from Kane and what he and Billy cooked up to deal with Kane's threat. It looks like Jack isn't certain that he can trust Billy. Jack tells Diane the only problem with his plan is that he has to put a lot of faith in Billy. That means Jack is taking a huge risk with the future of YandR by trusting Billy not to betray them at all. That is a valid concern because Billy's a wild card who likes living on the edge and is an adrenaline junkie and a gambling addict. That's a lot of trust in somebody that's sketchy. Young and the Restless spoilers, Daniel develops feelings for Tessa. Also, next week in our spoilers we have Danny Romalotti, Michael Damian, with his son Daniel. They're talking in the park. That's the same park where Daniel was hanging out with Tessa Porter and her daughter Aria. We had Daniel and Tessa kind of low-key flirty, looking at cloud animals after they got Aria to sleep. Daniel even offered to watch over and guard Aria if Tessa wanted to take a nap, too. These are the first sparks of any kind of romantic interest Daniel's had with any woman since his ex-wife, Heather Stevens, Vale Bloom, was brutally murdered by Jordan Howard, Colleen Zenk. So Daniel's been grieving a long time, and he's been processing. Maybe he's ready for something. Meanwhile, Tessa's grieving the end of her marriage to Mariah Copeland, Cameron Grimes, because her wife smothered some old dude with a pillow. We still don't know if that guy survived or not. Either way, What Mariah did has torn her marriage to Tessa apart. Daniel tells his dad, Danny, what's been going on with him and Tessa just hanging out, the guitar lessons, all that. That happens next week on Young and the Restless. Danny tells Daniel that it sounds like Tessa is starting to mean more to his son, to mean something. Daniel confesses to Danny that he's afraid he's starting to develop real feelings for Tessa. It seems like Daniel might be falling in love with Tessa, which is problematic because she is still married to Mariah, even though they are legally separated. In the state of Wisconsin, you can date if you're legally separated or get involved with somebody else. It won't affect your divorce or custody case as long as you have those documents, which they do. So, technically, Tessa wouldn't be doing anything wrong if she started dating Daniel or anybody. But of course, this could make things really messy for Tessa, and even make her wife Mariah push for a divorce. Not to punish Tessa, but for her own good. Young and the Restless spoilers. Tessa shares Daniel's complicated feelings? Mariah has lurked around, and she's seen Tessa looking happy and chill with Daniel. To be honest, it already looks like Young and the Restless was leaning towards a Tessa and Daniel pairing. We might even get some love triangle action, which will be very unusual. So Tessa and Daniel may get more serious soon, especially if he confesses his growing feelings to her. I suspect Tessa could tell him she feels the same, but at the same time she may also say, but it's too soon. My marriage is still in flux. I don't know if Mariah is ever going to come back. And she may tap pause on anything more right now than just being friends. Lily Winter's undercover mission, and Kane's growing influence in Genoa City. Also, next week on Young and the Restless, spoilers tell us that Kane's choo-choo train rolls into Genoa City, and he's very excited, saying all aboard. That's right, Lily Winters walks aboard his train. If you remember, Victor suggested this week that Lily not avoid Kane, and instead he thinks Lily whispers and secrets, the kind that could either make or break a life in an instant. At the heart of the storm was Jack Abbott, a man who had built his empire on bold moves, but tonight, even he was stepping into uncharted territory. Across town, Daniel Romalotti was facing a different kind of challenge. One that had nothing to do with business or boardrooms, but with the fragile, thrilling chaos of the heart. Jack had always been a master of calculated risks. Every decision, every negotiation, every confrontation was carefully weighed, measured, and executed. But tonight, he was taking a gamble that would put even his legendary instincts to the test. The new tech venture he had been quietly funding was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and the only way to save it, and protect the reputation of Abbott Enterprises, was to make a move that could alienate his closest allies. The office lights at the top floor of Abbott Tower flickered as Jack stared out over the glittering cityscape, the skyline a reflection of his own turbulent thoughts. Sometimes you have to risk it all, he muttered under his breath, pacing like a lion in a cage. If I don't, everything I've built could crumble. Meanwhile, at Crimson Lights, Daniel Romalotti sipped on his coffee, staring at a small envelope on the table in front of him. Inside was a note, written in a handwriting he didn't recognize, a handwriting that had already begun to stir feelings he wasn't sure he was ready to face. After years of heartbreak, betrayal, and learning the hard way that love in Genoa City came with a heavy price, Daniel had finally started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could open his heart again. The woman who had written that note, Elena, was mysterious and captivating, a talented artist whose gallery had recently opened in the city. She wasn't just beautiful, she was enigmatic in a way that made Daniel's curiosity impossible to resist. And as he read her words, an invitation to meet her at her gallery that evening, he felt a spark he hadn't felt in years. Jack's phone buzzed, pulling him out of his reverie. It was a message from Victor Newman, his longtime rival and occasional ally. I hear you're making a bold move tonight. Careful, Jack. Boldness can be expensive. Jack smirked, typing back a reply with a confidence that masked the uncertainty bubbling inside. Some risks are worth paying the price. That evening, Jack arrived at the lavish gala hosted by a tech magnate eager to invest in Abbott's project. The room was filled with power players, influencers, and reporters, all hungry for a glimpse of what the city's elite were planning next. Jack's entrance drew whispers. He wasn't just there to socialize, he was there to take control, to bend the outcome in his favor, and perhaps, to rewrite the rules of the game once again. He found himself face-to-face with Kane Ashby, a man he had tangled with more than once in matters of business and family. Kane's eyes were cautious, wary, but also curious. Jack extended a hand, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Kane, he said smoothly, tonight it's all or nothing. Meanwhile, Daniel approached Elena's gallery, the hum of the city fading behind him as he stepped into her world of color, shadow, and light. Paintings adorned every wall, each one a story, a secret, a fragment of a soul laid bare. Elena appeared from behind a canvas, her eyes locking with his in a moment that felt suspended in time. "Daniel," she said softly, "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wouldn't miss it," he replied, his voice steady despite the rush of emotion he felt. "There's something about your work. Something about you. I had to see you." The evening unfolded with a delicate tension. Jack, in the midst of high-stakes negotiations, made a move that surprised everyone. He publicly announced a partnership that no one saw coming, one that risked angering allies and rivals alike. The room held its breath, whispers turning into murmurs of disbelief. And then, as the applause began, Jack allowed himself the smallest, almost imperceptible smile. Risk was dangerous, but tonight it might just pay off. At the gallery, Daniel and Elena walked slowly among her creations, sharing stories, laughter, and shy glances that spoke louder than words. For Daniel, every moment was a revelation, every brushstroke a metaphor for the life he longed to embrace, a life unshackled by fear, free to love and to dream. "Elena, this is new for me," he admitted, pausing in front of a painting that seemed to capture his own vulnerability. "I've been hurt. I've lost my way a few times. But being here with you, it feels right." Elena reached out, taking his hand. "Sometimes the heart knows the path before the mind can see it," she said. Her touch was warm, grounding him, and for the first time in a long while, Daniel allowed himself to believe that love could be more than just a fleeting risk. Back at the gala, Jack's bold move had created a ripple effect. Investors were intrigued, competitors were wary, and his family, though skeptical, began to see the potential of his audacious plan. But Jack knew that every risk carried a shadow, and that tonight's victory was only the beginning. There would be consequences, complications, and conflicts, but Jack Abbott thrived on challenges. As the evening wound down, the two stories, one of daring ambition, the other of cautious yet thrilling love, converged in their shared theme. The courage to step forward despite fear, to embrace uncertainty, and to believe in possibility. Daniel left Elena's gallery hand in hand with her, a sense of hope and excitement swirling around him. Jack returned to his penthouse, the city lights twinkling below like a promise of what was yet to come. Both men, in their own ways, had taken a leap, one in business, one in the heart, and both had glimpsed the rewards of daring to risk everything. Genoa City was a city of secrets, of heartbreak, of power, and of passion. But tonight, it had witnessed two different kinds of courage. Jack Abbott had reminded everyone why he was a force to be reckoned with, a man who could alter the course of empires with a single decision. And Daniel Romalotti had reminded himself, and everyone watching, that love, even after betrayal, could be a daring adventure worth chasing. And as the night stretched on, the city seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next twist, the next shock, the next revelation. Because in Genoa City, nothing stayed still for long. And for Jack and Daniel, the risks they had taken tonight, power, wealth, and betrayal often go hand in hand. The Abbott family had always been a formidable force in the corporate world. But in recent weeks, they had taken their business game to unprecedented heights. With Jill Abbott offering sage guidance from the sidelines and Jack Abbott pushing the envelope with aggressive strategies, Abbott's enterprises had become the center of a storm that threatened to shake Genoa City's corporate and personal alliances alike. The latest development began with a seemingly simple boardroom decision, one that no one could have predicted would ignite a cascade of conflicts and unexpected alliances. Jack Abbott, always the tactician, had identified a lucrative acquisition opportunity. A small but highly innovative tech startup was rumored to be on the verge of a breakthrough that could revolutionize the energy sector. While most would have hesitated, wary of overextending the company, Jack saw an opportunity to cement the Abbott's dominance, and he was willing to take bold risks. In a move that shocked even some of his closest allies, Jack approved an aggressive takeover strategy. This plan was multifaceted. It wasn't just about acquiring the startup, it was about sending a message. The message was clear. The Abbotts were back, stronger, and unafraid of stepping on toes to protect their empire. But with high stakes came high tension. Every move Jack made drew attention from rivals eager to exploit any misstep. Enter Kane Ashby, a man whose charm often concealed a razor-sharp intellect and ambitions that rivaled even the most seasoned players in Genoa City. Kane had always admired the Abbott legacy, but had grown restless in the shadow of giants. While the Abbotts were busy flexing their corporate muscle, Kane saw a different path. One that could elevate him from being a key player in someone else's game to the master of his own. His ambitions were no longer limited to mere professional success. He wanted influence, respect, and a seat at the top table that controlled the city's fortunes. Kane's approach was subtle, yet calculated. He didn't charge into the boardroom with overt aggression. Instead, he cultivated alliances, leveraged insider knowledge, and positioned himself as indispensable. At the same time, he quietly observed the Abbotts' moves, recognizing both their strengths and vulnerabilities. He knew that Jack's aggressive strategy could create openings, and if Kane played his cards right, he could insert himself into the Abbott equation in ways no one would see coming. The tension escalated during a high-profile shareholders' meeting, which had been scheduled to announce the Abbott acquisition. Jack entered the room with his trademark confidence, ready to unveil the bold plan that he believed would cement the family's dominance. But Kane, ever the tactician, had quietly lined up a counterproposal that not only challenged the Abbott strategy, but also positioned him as a visionary in his own right. Kane's proposal focused on innovation and sustainable growth, leveraging emerging markets that promised long-term returns rather than the immediate, high-risk gains Jack sought. While Jack emphasized speed and impact, Kane emphasized stability and foresight. The juxtaposition was stark. The Abbotts were bold and daring. Kane was calculated and strategic. The room was divided, with some shareholders swayed by Jack's charisma and aggressive vision, while others were captivated by Kane's nuanced approach that promised consistency and future-proof success. Behind the scenes, tensions between Jack and Kane became personal. Jack, who had always prided himself on his ability to control every aspect of his empire, could not ignore the fact that Kane was slowly gaining influence. Kane, on the other hand, relished the challenge. He had faced the Newman family's manipulations, navigated Ashley's corporate politics, and survived betrayals that would have broken lesser men. Confronting the Abbotts was yet another test. A chess game where every move had the potential to redefine his place in Genoa City's hierarchy. Complicating matters further was Kane's relationship with Lily Ashby. While he had once acted purely out of professional calculation, Kane now found himself emotionally entangled. Lily, with her innate intelligence and deep understanding of business dynamics, became both a confidant and a potential liability. Kane's decisions now carried an emotional weight. Any misstep could jeopardize not only his ambitions, but also his personal relationships. The Abbott strategy, bold as it was, inadvertently created friction in Kane's personal life, forcing him to juggle loyalty, ambition, and love in a city where all three were often at odds. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott doubled down. Recognizing the threat Kane posed, he shifted tactics, blending aggression with persuasion. He courted influential shareholders, leaned on long-standing relationships, and even hinted at insider advantages that could tip the scales in his favor. Every public announcement, every private conversation was carefully orchestrated to outmaneuver Kane without exposing the Abbotts' vulnerabilities. But Kane was relentless. He launched initiatives that demonstrated real results, showcasing measurable growth and innovative strategies that appealed to the modern investor. Slowly, the narrative shifted. The once clear-cut Abbott advantage became more nuanced. Shareholders began to question whether the boldness of the Abbott strategy was sustainable, or whether Kane's approach promised a more reliable path to long-term prosperity. In a dramatic turn, the city's media caught wind of the escalating battle between the Abbotts and Kane. Genoa City buzzed with speculation, debates, and rumors. Every meeting, every announcement became a spectacle. Kane's ambitions were no longer just a personal journey. They were a public narrative unfolding in real time, with the Abbott family positioned as both adversaries and benchmarks. Ultimately, the unfolding saga highlighted a fundamental truth of Genoa City. Business success was never purely about numbers. It was about people, perception, and power. The Abbotts' bold strategies demonstrated vision and courage, but Kane Ashby's ambitions reminded everyone that foresight, adaptability, and personal alliances could be equally formidable. As the dust settled on the latest round of corporate maneuvers, both sides understood that the battle was far from over. Jack Abbott had proven his family's mettle, but Kane had carved out a space for himself as a serious contender in Genoa City's high-stakes arena. Every shareholder, every rival, and every family member watched closely, knowing that the next move could redefine the city's balance of power once again. In the world of Young and the Restless, ambition is a double-edged sword. For the Abbotts, boldness has always been their trademark. For Kane Ashby, Cunning and patience are his weapons. Together, they embody the tension between legacy and innovation, risk and strategy, dominance and aspiration. And as Genoa City waits with bated breath, one thing is certain. The Abbott-Ashby saga is far from finished, and the stakes have never been higher. Every boardroom meeting, every whispered deal, and every calculated move now carries weight far beyond profit margins. In this intricate dance of ambition and strategy, only one thing is predictable. The office was
Nothing
quiet,
is predictable
almost
in
eerily
Genoa
so.
City.
The hum of the city outside seemed distant, muffled by the thick glass walls of Newman Enterprises' executive floor. Billy Abbott tapped his fingers nervously against the polished mahogany desk, the weight of the conversation he was about to have pressing down on him. He had rehearsed the words in his head 1,000 times, yet they never seemed quite right. Jack Abbott leaned back in his chair, his piercing gaze fixed on Billy. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a mixture of familial loyalty, tension, and the shadow of past betrayals. Jack had always been the steadier of the two, the one who could navigate Newman Abbott politics with a calm that Billy often envied. But today, even Jack's patience seemed tinged with concern. "Billy," Jack began, his voice measured, "you wanted to talk. What's on your mind?" Billy took a deep breath, his eyes darting to the framed family photos on Jack's desk before returning to Jack's. "It's about everything. About what's happening with the business, with us, with the family," he said, his voice tight. "I feel like I'm constantly trying to prove myself, and, I don't know, I feel like I'm failing." Jack's expression softened slightly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Billy, you're not failing. But you are putting yourself in the middle of a storm, and it's not just about you. It's about all of us. You need to remember that." Billy ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I know. But every time I try to make a move, to take a stand, it backfires. Last week with Victor, I tried to negotiate to keep things from escalating, and I feel like I just made things worse." Jack nodded, his jaw tightening. "Victor Newman doesn't make it easy for anyone. He tests you, pushes you, tries to break you. That's what he does. But it's not just about him. It's about how you react, how you protect your family, how you protect yourself." Billy's shoulders slumped, a weight he hadn't fully acknowledged pressing down. "I'm scared, Jack. I'm scared that no matter what I do, I'll never be enough. That everyone, Mom, Dad, even you, will see me as the weak link." Jack's eyes softened, but there was steel in his voice. "Billy, listen to me. You are not the weak link. You're a fighter. You've made mistakes. Yeah, we all have, but that doesn't define you. What defines you is how you stand back up, how you keep fighting. And right now you're standing in front of me, asking for guidance. That takes more courage than anything else." Billy's lip trembled slightly, a mixture of relief and vulnerability breaking through his tough exterior. "I don't want to disappoint anyone," he admitted. I want to do the right thing. But sometimes the right thing isn't clear. And with Victor, and with Lily, and with everything, I feel like I'm constantly walking on a tightrope." Jack leaned back, letting out a slow sigh. "Life's like that, Billy. Especially in Genoa City. The key is not to let fear control your decisions. You have instincts, judgment, you just need to trust yourself more. And remember, you're not alone. We're family. We fight together. We fall together. And sometimes we crash and burn together too, but we survive." Billy nodded, the tension in his chest easing just a little. "I know you're right. I hate feeling so powerless." Jack's gaze sharpened, a hint of warning threading through his calm demeanor. "Feeling powerless and being powerless are two very different things, Billy. You need to stop letting Victor, or anyone else, dictate how you feel about yourself. You have power you don't even realize, and the sooner you embrace it, the sooner you can control the narrative instead of reacting to it." Billy's mind raced, thinking about the recent corporate moves, Victor's constant meddling, and the delicate alliances forming around Newman Enterprises. "So, what should I do?" he asked, a desperate edge in his voice. Jack leaned forward, his eyes locking with Billy's unwavering. "You need to make a plan, not a reaction. You need to know your boundaries, your goals, and where you draw the line. And then, you execute with confidence. Don't second-guess yourself. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment. And most importantly, don't be afraid to call on me or anyone else who has your back." Billy exhaled, a small smile breaking through. I think I can do that. I needed someone to remind me that I'm not in this alone." Jack's lips quirked into a rare smile, a mix of pride and approval. "That's what family is for, Billy. We push each other, we challenge each other, we drive each other crazy. But at the end of the day, we've got each other's backs." Billy's mind flashed to Lily, to the delicate dance of loyalty and deception that seemed to define every day in his life. He thought of Kane, of the tension with Victor, and the ever-present shadow of Newman-Abbott rivalry. And yet, in that moment, talking to Jack, he felt a spark of clarity. Maybe he wasn't as powerless as he thought. Maybe, just maybe, he could shape his own destiny. "Thanks, Jack," he said quietly. "I needed this. More than I realized." Jack waved a hand dismissively, though the warmth in his eyes betrayed his tough exterior. "Don't thank me yet. The real test comes when you take action. Words are easy. Decisions, those are hard. And in Genoa City, decisions can make or break you in a heartbeat." Billy nodded, determination settling in like armor. "Then I'll make the right decisions. I have to. For myself, for my family, for everyone who's counting on me." Jack leaned back, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. "That's the spirit. Remember, Billy, strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. And trust me, in this family, there's always someone willing to help you get back up." Billy smiled, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and newfound resolve. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had a plan, like he had a path forward through the chaos of Newman Enterprises and the endless intrigues of Genoa City. As he left Jack's office, the city skyline stretched before him, a reminder of the battles yet to come. But this time, Billy felt a spark of confidence. He wasn't alone. He had his family. He had his instincts. And most importantly, he had the courage to finally step into his own power. The corridor outside Jack's office felt different somehow, brighter, charged with possibility. Billy straightened his tie, squared his shoulders, and walked with a purpose he hadn't felt in months. The world of Young and the Restless was ruthless, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But Billy Abbott was ready. He was ready to fight, to stand, and to prove that he belonged. And as Jack watched him disappear down the hallway, a faint smile tugged at his lips. Genoa City might be full of schemers and manipulators, but maybe, just maybe, Billy Abbott was finally learning how to play the game and win.